Hello, my name is Irene Kim, and today I'll be talking about the microorganism called Yersinia pestis. So the scientific name of this disease is called Yersinia pestis, which causes the bubonic plague. Between the years 1346 to 1353 in Afro-Eurasia, rodents called black rats carried the microorganism which ended up causing this kind of plague. This is an important event because it's known as the most fatal pandemic in human history, where 25 to 1 million people had passed. This disease is transmitted when rodent fleas bite humans or when the infected material goes through a break in the skin. This is primarily a rodent pathogen where humans are an accidental host and it travels into their intestinal tract. It is a sporadic disease, which means it only occurs infrequently from time to time in isolated places. In areas like Africa, South America, and Asia, there are up to 3,000 cases of this disease each year. We focus on this bacterium because in just 1 to 6 days after becoming infected, the plague could be lethal. For the classification of the bacterium, the domain is bacteria, the phylum is Proteobacteria, the class is Gamma Proteobacteria, the order is Enterobacterialis, the family is Yersiniaceae, the genus is Yersinia, and the species is Y. pestis. Yersinia pestis was discovered by the bacteriologist Alexandre Yersin, and in 1944, it was renamed because they found that the plague was linked with the bacillus. If we break down the words, Yersinia means bacteria and pestis means plague. This is known as a communicable disease because it is transmitted through rodents to humans and animals. Signs last around 2 to 8 days, and the patient feels fever, painful lymph nodes, and much more. The severity of this disease is a ratio of around 30 to 60%, and it is always fatal if not treated. The patterns of the disease include immediate fever, fatigue, shivering, and vomiting. In order to prevent this disease, you should remove unsanitary items and make sure the outbuildings are rodent-proof. To treat the illness, streptomycin is one of the most effective antibiotics for Yersinia pestis. Relating to my topic, I have picked 2 articles. The first article is a peer-reviewed journal titled Role of Yersinia pestis, Yersinia bactin, Iron Acquisition System in the Incidence of Flea-Borne Plague. The second article is a popular article called Op-Ed, Climate Change Could Bring Bubonic Plague Back into Los Angeles. I chose these 2 articles because they both played a role in explaining the disease and how it could reoccur. The hypothesis stated that the YBT, which is an iron uptake system that is essential for Yersinia pestis to cause different kinds of plagues, would provide sufficient iron that is required by bacteria. In this experiment, the research data explained that YBT system is not really necessary for the Yersinia pestis to colonize. When the mice were injected superficially into the dermis, the plague came out as avirulent and ineffective. However, when the mice were injected into the veins, they ended up fully virulent. From the table, we saw the outcome where mice 1 through 6 had typical bubonic plague, which was label B, while mice 7 through 9 and 12 had no disease, the label S. Mouse 11 was the only one that was the atypical among the other mice. The wild-type strain was the original parent strain with no mutations. From the graph, it showed that 6 out of the 9 mice, which were the squares, had typical bubonic plague. With the IRP2 strain, it was a mutant strain shown in the open circles in the graph. It ended up with typical bubonic plague just after 6 days. For the popular article, it discusses the increase of climate change and how it could impact the bubonic plague to reoccur into our lives. From the hot weather patterns, there's an extension of breeding seasons for rodents in Los Angeles, New York, and Houston. By educating people about the plague through climate change, we might be able to prevent a deadly disease from reappearing into our world today. Their conclusion is that there is a YBT enzyme missing, so the strain would be avirulent because there is no pigmentation in strains. With the negative pigment mutations, it would end up producing a type of biofilm that would block normal blood feeding in a flea gut. From the test, it shows how many more experiments are being conducted in order to stop the strain from recurring in our world. Thank you.